Okay, so I think we were on Apollo 11 last time. So Apollo 11 had Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. Neil Armstrong was obviously the first to go out. Their lunar module was called Eagle, and that's the one you can see in the reflection right there. It came from the Columbia Command Module, and that's where the term "the Eagle has landed" came from. This is Neil Armstrong, and that's Buzz Aldrin taking the picture. And Michael Collins was on the module to let them back in. Yeah, Apollo 12, they wanted to do a better, more pinpoint landing on the moon, if that makes sense, when they found out that Apollo 11 was successful. Apollo 12 was cool because when they were taking off, there was a storm, and the ship itself actually got struck by lightning twice, and so that blew out all of the electronics when they were going up. But obviously the jets were already going, so you can't really stop it. Conrad was one of the astronauts, Pete Conrad, and what he was supposed to do was pull this lever that would detach them from the jets and they'd just fall back to Earth. But he kind of refused and broke a bunch of rules because he's a total badass. But he thought that the mission could be saved, so he put him and the other two kind of in danger, and they kept continuing up. And back at the mission control at NASA, they're trying to figure out how to reboot all the electronics, and apparently they didn't prepare for that, and so nobody really knew how to do it, believe it or not. But Pete Conrad flipped a switch on the ship and it rebooted all the electronics. And not only that, but the mission was still a success. And there's a YouTube video about that.
You want volume?
I got this.
You want volume?
Okay, so right now they're just talking
There's a
about
problem.
the mission.
Commercial airliners flew through storm clouds all the time.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running. Commence liftoff.
Despite the overcast weather, the launch went well. The Saturn pierced the thick cloud cover. Then at 36 seconds into the flight, Mother Nature herself weighed in. Apollo 12 had been struck by lightning twice. The impact on the spacecraft was both instantaneous and catastrophic.
You know what happened here? We had everything in the world drop out. I'm assuming it's amazing. Fuel cell lights and 86 plus light fuel cell disconnect, 86 plus overload 1 and 2, main plus and AC out.
Everything that could have gone out in that spacecraft went out. I mean, the electrical system, the guidance system, the spacecraft was basically non-functional, even as the Saturn V was pushing it towards orbit.
As the crippled spacecraft continued its climb, Pete Conrad grasped the abort handle and hung on tight. Twisting it would end the flight. Mission rules suggest he should have done so immediately, blasting the command module away from the blazing rocket. Instead, Conrad waited as Apollo 12 traveled higher and faster. The crew flew in near darkness, illuminated only by the flashing alarm lights. Meanwhile, Mission Control tried to figure out what had gone wrong. The charge had crashed all shipboard systems, which needed to be reset immediately. Flight controllers began to think that nothing less than a total reboot would repair the system crash. No one had trained for such a possibility. The instructions were radioed to the spacecraft. Only Alan Bean understood the order.
Apollo Houston, try SCE to auxiliary order. SCE to auxiliary. SCE to auxiliary.
As his crewmates debated, he acted. A quiet flip of a switch, and Apollo 12 was back up and running. To everybody's surprise, Apollo 12 was still intact. After a quick check around the room,
Okay, so,
in order to make a pinpoint landing, Apollo 12 had to launch within a very narrow window.
okay, so the headquarters commander, I can't remember what his name was, but this was his first mission, and this happened. And he had to decide whether to abort the mission or not, and he decided to keep it going, and it was a success. When they got up there, they took some soil samples and measured some solar wind data. So, and that's a picture of it about to launch. Okay, so Apollo 13 was supposed to land on another area of the moon, but when they were in space, an oxygen tank exploded, and so they decided to abort the mission, and their main priority was to get these three guys home. And what they ended up doing was they had the ship go around the moon and then orbit down and back into Earth. And because these guys were so good, they obviously got home. And one weird thing that happened was the main astronaut that was supposed to go up got measles right before this happened, and apparently he was like super furious that he couldn't go up, but then that happened, and he ended up being able to go up on Apollo 16, I believe. And so that's them, what connects them. So 14 through 17 were just more landings, and they just gathered more information about the geology of the moon. They brought up on Apollo 7 a geologist named Jack Schmidt, and he actually took really good data of the moon. And then, yeah, so Ken Mattingly was the one who got measles, and he ended up being able to go back up. And then after that, we kind of realized that there's not too much up there to study, and it costs a lot of money to go to the moon, so that's pretty much why we haven't really been there since. And also when they went up there, they did some more tests. They had a feather and a hammer, and they dropped them at the same time, and obviously they hit the ground at the same time. And I believe on 14, one of the astronauts hit a golf ball on the moon, and it just kept going, which I thought was pretty. So the total cost was $25.4 billion for the whole program, and that was when, way back in the day, that rounds out to about $145 billion today. The spacecrafts alone were $5.3 billion, and the Saturn rockets, which were the rockets they used to get out there, were $8.7 million, and then everything else was $11.4 billion, and obviously 3 guys died. Here's just some cool things about that amount of money. You can buy Yankee Stadium 97 times. You can have Charlie Sheen come entertain you at a party for 1,500 years.
I don't think he's gonna live that long.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't even think
And
he's
I don't
gonna
think
live
I'd want to go to a party that's that long.
that long. Yeah.
And yeah. Okay, so because the Apollo program was such a success, we're the ones who were deemed the winners of the space race. I'm sure you guys all know that from last year, but anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Tony.